Welcome back to another episode of DEC Does What. I'm Sean Mahar along with
Erica Ringewald.
And we're excited to be talking about emergency response today. And Erica, did you know that New York State has what's known as the Incident Management Team?
I did.
We're going to learn all about that today. So Erica, what's your most memorable response we've had as of recently?
There's so many. It's been a busy couple of months, but I have to say the response to what's still relatively recent, the Jennings Creek wildfire down at the Sterling Forest State Park, to watch DEC's Division of Forest Protection, our forest rangers who are expert wildland firefighters, head up that effort and organize with the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, the local fire departments, the county. It was really impressive.
It was, and I know we talked a little bit about that on our show last time, and, between us and state parks, dishes, the incident management team that gets stood up in these incident responses is, really amazing to watch and really see, and that's why we're excited today to be talking about when disaster strikes, how New York responds. So, Erica, who do we have on the show today?
Today, we've got Captain Adam Pickett with the Division of Forest Protection and Erin Hanczyk with DEC's Division of Communications, Education, and Engagement.
Adam and Erin, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So what is the state's incident management team? And we've talked about IMT is its acronym, but really, what is it?
The IMT is a group of people that have special training in very defined disciplines, from what I do as an overall incident commander down through operations, plans, logistics. We break up all those heavy workload during an emergency so that people can focus on a particular part of the overall response. And that's why the team is made up of people that are trained up in those disciplines and come together. And it's scalable. So depending on how big the disaster is, decides, how many people we need in the various positions.
So when we talk about disaster striking and incident management teams, people think obviously New York, something happening in New York. But actually, why we wanted to have you on the show today was New York State helped out during the response to Hurricane Helene this year and went to North Carolina to help our brothers and sisters there really respond to that unprecedented hurricane. So talk a little bit about your experience there. What did you do as part of that IMT that went down?
So I went down with approximately 27 people from the team. We were sent to the city of Asheville. The city of Asheville's water system had essentially a complete failure. They lost one of their largest water mains coming out of their reservoir system. So the entire city was without water. Part of our mission was to establish points of distribution, to get out bottled water, also getting out bulk water. And then also we added in MREs, meals ready to eat, so that they could have something to eat and drink at a minimum.
So being a forest ranger doesn't just mean you're walking around the woods and doing search and rescues. You actually go to other places and really look at an emergency response and really help make that happen. So talk to me a little bit about that and why do people just think as forest rangers, but you're so much more?
For me, it was, I think going back to 2005, when we had a wildland search that I was kind of thrust in charge of, not being on the job that long. And just remembering, there was a lot of resources, a lot of people helping out. We had aviation, and trying to get my head around everything that needed to be accomplished. It was extremely stressful. And, because as one person trying to think of all these different things, again, you don't necessarily, you think about the mission, but you don't think about all the support that needs to go behind that for all the people that are helping you with the mission. So I realized early on that there's kind of got to be a better way. And so that's when, and the same goes with wildland fire. It's such a large response and a large organization that you learn that you can't do it all. So then rangers, we take on, again, focusing on different disciplines, but trying to, become better at certain things versus trying to be good at everything. And that's how, my training and my involvement with the incident management team kind of started back in 2005.
So, Erin, you went down to North Carolina as a public information officer. So you were working in Raleigh at the State Emergency Operations Center there. Sort of what was the focus of your job in communicating to the public? I know that there were a lot of issues with misinformation.
Yeah, so when I arrived at the Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh, our initial objective was to navigate all of the misinformation that was spreading through Western North Carolina. A big piece of that was surrounding FEMA and FEMA reimbursements and financial reimbursements. And there was also a lot of misinformation around shelters and donations. It was really widespread. And so to start, we really needed to wrap our head around the information that was already being communicated, because coming in a week late or a week after the disaster had struck, there was still a lot of emotions throughout the EOC. A lot of the staff still had friends, family, coworkers who were potentially still missing. We were trying to wrap our head around fatalities versus missing persons and those numbers. And that was the kind of misinformation we really started to see right off the bat was where people can go if they think someone is missing, and how many people are missing, and how many fatalities have already been calculated, and who's keeping track of this. And it was just kind of hitting us from all angles. And because the staff there was still on a lot of high emotions, we really kind of took our outside perspective. And just to rewind a bit, there was 4 PIOs nationwide. So it was myself, another PIO from DEC, and then one from Colorado and one from Massachusetts. So there was 4 of us, all with our own specific expertise. So we kind of came in with that outside perspective and just put our leadership skills and our organization skills to work, and started each of us taking a piece of that misinformation or that mistrust or where the communication holes were, organizing the PIOs that were out already deployed in Western North Carolina, and making sure they had all the information they had, because at this point, communication channels were still down. Very few had come back online. So tackling that was a huge feat right off the bat.
So how were you getting information out then if the lines of communication are down?
Yeah, so the first thing we were doing a lot of media inquiries, a lot of interviews. The governor was holding a lot of briefings. But again, we were kind of seeing that lack of distribution to Western North Carolina. So we immediately stood up a joint information system where we found a way to get in contact with all of the different PIOs in Western North Carolina that were currently deployed, so we could start funneling communications, flyers, video, whatever they needed to them. As Starlink started to pop up at the emergency centers that a lot of the PIOs and IMTs were working through, we were able to at least get information to them, and then they could disseminate it to the communities through trusted sources.
That's amazing.
So, Adam, I know that, when we say incident management, right, each part of a broader emergency response has specific discrete incidents. So you were talking about how one of the incidents we were managing for was a water supply that was down, right? I know our swift water rescue teams also participated heavily in the initial emergency response. Can you talk a little bit about that and what our rangers helped with in those initial few days right after the hurricane?
Yeah, they got down there ahead of time, but before the flooding, and they tell you that we worked for. I mean, when I got down there working for the fire department for the city of Asheville, I got to see some pretty staggering and impressive videos of their teams and what they did for their swift water response. The Rangers weren't working in the city, but they faced the same unprecedented levels of water, to the point where at least in the city of Asheville, those firefighters, they had to make rescues of their own firefighters, making some absolutely heroic rescues. And I know that the Rangers and the OPC staff that were doing similar missions elsewhere in North Carolina were, making some very impressive, putting their training to good use. And then when the water levels went down, because they come up, and especially in the mountains there, they went down pretty quick. But then they spent a lot of time, searching for survivors, and also getting to the cutoff communities, getting them at least some initial water, or establishing, what their needs were so that they could communicate that back through some Starlink stuff to get it back to Raleigh and to get the right resources coming out.
So this is a lot of work, and it's a lot that, I imagine takes a personal toll on the people that are involved. You're helping humanity in some of their deepest, darkest moments. How do you stay grounded in this, and what are your work schedules like? And do you actually have rest periods, or are you on like 24/7 just helping with this emergency response unfold?
Yeah, so I can start. My work day there was anywhere between 12 and 14-hour days. A lot of times I'd get there early and I'd stay late, just to help with some more of the emotional support labor that comes outside of the workday. They supplied meals plus a late dinner, so oftentimes we'd stay and we'd all come together and have dinner together. I talk a lot as a PIO about the outside communication, but there's also a big importance to internal communication as well. So we as PIOs also took on the role of creating some internal kind of support system communications to spread throughout the EOC. Little things like there was these little plastic ducks that we'd put around, and it would make people's day when they'd find these little ducks with hats or little snowmen. Just kind of remind them that there's good times to come. Things will hopefully return to normalcy, but while they're in this, we're all in it together. So it was really hard. I mean, being away from family and being on a disaster, your whole mindset is focused on that disaster and what you're doing. And, I'd go back to the hotel at night and I would just pass out. I was exhausted, but, I'd wake up instantly in the morning and head straight to the EOC, and we'd just get back to work, and we'd do everything we could for them while we were there in those 14 days.
Yeah. And from our team perspective, we take, safety. We have a safety officer that always will travel with the team. And one of the big components is a work to rest ratio. And again, going back to my younger days, on a search,
You're not that old, Adam.
I know, working, on a search, and being up 20 hours, you can do that for a little bit, but then obviously you're missing things. So we take that work to rest, very seriously. And as we did in North Carolina, we get to, again, the first couple of days of getting there and kind of getting a sense of, because a lot of times they don't know exactly what we can give them and how we can help them and how much work they really want to give us. You got to build that trust. But once we got through that, we got to the point where we didn't, you work 16 hours maximum, and then you get, so you can get 8 hours of rest. And if there's for some reason, whether it's a night operation or whatever, that's when we bring in additional resources on the team so that we can maintain that work to rest ratio.
Adam, what type of training goes into, preparing for these incident management teams? Is this part of your Ranger education that you get, or are there different courses that you take, or how can someone get involved in the state's IMT if they're interested?
Well, so from the Ranger perspective, yeah, again, it's more about, for me, it was realizing that, I gotta learn a better way so that I'm not exhausted, stressed out. So yeah, there's lots of training courses. Again, when we talk about the different sections on the IMT, the plans, logistics, operations, whether you're talking about the PIO, safety, liaison, every one of those positions, has subordinate positions. So you start out at a low level, taking training classes, and then the state IMT, it's made up of many agencies across the state, again, with people to get those qualifications. And then we typically have 2 larger meetings a year where we take on some additional training as a team, and then typically also run some kind of an exercise. Because, thankfully there isn't a disaster every day, although sometimes it feels like it. So we have to, so when there's quote unquote slower times, we make sure we try to get an exercise in to keep people's skills up, keep them engaged in the process. And I'll say, my time going out on Western fire assignments, and that's where I kind of climbed up the ranks in the overhead. But in that situation, it was good because I got to work with different teams. And although ICS is, it's structured and I don't want to say it's rigid, but it's a common principles we stick to, but there's always tweaks to the forms and things that you can make a little more efficient. And working with different teams over the years, I brought back different pieces from things I've learned.
Do you have any big takeaway or something that surprised you about your experience in the Helene response?
I'll say, I was very impressed with the whole of government for the city of Asheville. We've gone on different assignments in different locations, and sometimes political influences, can, in my mind, sometimes slow down, or you think you're helping. But I'll say the city of Asheville was very prepared. Clearly, they didn't have the resources to handle the work that they had, but when we got there, they knew what they needed. They gave us a list of objectives. I've gone to some places and been told, go fix this, which can be kind of a daunting thing, where the city of Asheville had redone their EOC. They had redone, and they'd actually held some trainings. So it was very impressive to see in their city manager, they were all in alignment on what needed to happen. It was just a matter of getting resources into the area and coordinating them. And that, getting the water there in the beginning of the first few days was, I know, very frustrating for them. But again, I was very impressed with the city leadership down there.
That's great.
Working together.
To see government at work.
Yep.
Erin, how about you?
I would have to almost echo that. The state government level, I think, did a really fantastic job with their awareness. When they knew misinformation was happening and the mistrust with the state level government was happening, they stepped aside, and their biggest priority was getting the most accurate information to the communities. And so, however means that we were able to do that, they allowed us to do that. And so they really kind of stepped outside of their government brands or their logos, or their agency titles, and really just focused on the most important messages to get within those communities. And that just helped the flow of information be more efficient and be more meaningful and hit those communities where it needed to.
So, Erin, I know that you recently were on the Jennings fire that we talked about as well.
Yes.
What were some of the experiences you took, or what did you take from your time in North Carolina and bring back to an incident here in the state?
Yeah. One of the things that helped me from Helene was having that experience going into a very disorganized situation and finding the ways to be organized and finding the ways to meet those objectives. And so I came into the fire kind of a lot more just prepared for anything. It allowed me to be a little more flexible for what I was walking into as a PIO. I had seen all the media coverage on the fire, and I had been talking with Jeff for days leading up to when I got there.
For those of you who don't know Jeff Wernick is one of DEC's tireless public information officers, or PIOs, as we call them. Jeff was down at the fire where he worked with other PIOs from our sister agencies, Dishes and Parks, among others.
And it helped me know what questions to ask him based on the experience I had when I was in Helene.
So, Erin, you talked about food before. Now, whenever I go to an incident anywhere, I am impressed by the amount of food that is always around. I mean, obviously, we always want to take care of our emergency responders and keep them well fed so they have the energy and strength. But how do you two, as you're in an incident, maintain your waistlines when surrounded by all this delicious food that people are donating to you?
You don't. You just eat all the cookies. It's part of the
Yeah,
emotional.
when you're working 16 hours a day, I think you're working off the donuts.
If you remember to eat during that time, I think it's the forgetting to eat because you're so focused on the incident that maintains your waistline. But then when you remember to eat, you just eat all of the food and the cookies. And what I will say to the food, seeing the local support and the community support come in with all of the different food options. Every deployment I've been on so far, the food has been top notch. I mean, I can't even go home and feed myself that well. So,
And the other thing I was impressed by down there related to the food was, they had kind of a catering thing set up at a small arena just for the first responders. But and again, we're talking, many days into the operation now, but there would be local musicians that would come in and entertain the responders, give them that mental break to the point where we had a 4 or 5 piece orchestra playing music for us over dinner, which I've
Fantastic.
never had that happen, but it was kind of like that, that momentary where you take a break and just listen to the music, go, wow, this is impressive. And they're just, we're in kind of a basement dungeon, far cry from optimal music setting, but it was a welcome break.
Nice.
So, how did you two get involved in this work, and why did you both want to take on these roles and be part of the state's IMT and go to these far-flung locations and help people in need?
well, I have always known that I wanted to do something to help people. And I went to school with a communications and marketing major. And so when I moved up to the Adirondacks, I was like, I was in a marketing agency and it was fine, but I was doing a lot of branding and marketing and media of that aspect. And so when this position opened up in the DEC, I knew that was the role for me because I knew that working for an environmental agency and working for DEC, I knew what the forest rangers did in that area. This was my chance to put my communications skills to helping people and helping better our environment and the place that I love to live. And so similar to Adam's experience with the IMT, I think I was only on the job for a few months when the whiteface search happened in 2018. That was my first eye-opener to the incident management team. They had their Western shelter set up in the parking lot. It was a big frenzy of information and wondering, what happened to this person, where we're at now. And I got pulled in as the public information officer, and I just fell in love with the chaos of it all and the fact that I could use this to help people and get information out and help families. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. I joined the incident management team, and I've been training as a public information officer for the last 6 years. And yeah, I have been lucky enough to go on 3 deployments in the last month and a half, 2 months. And it's hard to come back to normal life after, just because you kind of ride that high and, the high of helping people and being there and being so absorbed and focused on what you're doing and what you excel at. And yeah, only up from here.
And what about you?
Yeah, I kind of said it before, but it's that idea that, wait, this is stressful, this is chaotic, there's got to be a better way. And then as I learned what I believe is the better way, going to somebody else's incident and being able to bring some calm to it. And a good example comes up from the summer. State team went, and a small number of us went to the city of Rome for the tornado. And as you can, and of course, in the beginning of any incident, there's going to be chaos, and everybody's working hard, trying hard. And so when I sat with the police chief, who was named the IC, and again, I'll say the city of Rome, similar to Asheville, everybody was rowing in the same direction. They were working together. It was just a matter of slowing things down and breaking things up into a process. And so after we did that, after the first day, because the police chief, I always remember, he, said, all right, if you need something, come see me. And I kind of, talked to him afterwards, said, all right, if we break it up this way and slow things down and run it through a regular cycle of planning, you'll notice a difference. And it was the next day or the day after when he came up to me and said, you're right, this is a lot less stressful and everything seems to be getting done and I'm not pulling my hair out. So when we're able to do that and get the work done without stressing people out, that's what I like to see.
Well, thank you two for coming on the show and sharing a little bit about your experiences. I know we're going to put some potential video packages together more to tell this story because it was a lot of amazing work that Team DEC really helped the broader statewide IMT conduct down there. So we're going to let you two get back to work, but thank you so much for your service and really being great ambassadors for the state and helping people in time of need. It's really great to see. It's inspiring work. And trust me, I want to be with you on these responses because I see what you're doing. I see how powerful it is. And I also see how much fun it is in a weird way. So just thank you for your service. And we appreciate all your efforts.
And thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So that was great.
It was indeed, Eric.
I've been dying to talk to them about what it was like down in North Carolina.
Me too, because I wanted to actually go on that response. It's hard when you get pulled in here to the day-to-day work, but just hearing from them, it's inspiring work.
It's inspiring work, and they're so good at it.
They are, so smooth. So speaking of, I know we had Captain Adam Pickett on, who's our forest ranger, and Erica, what is new in the world of forest rangers?
Well, earlier this week, DEC welcomed the newest class of DEC forest rangers to the team. We've got 9 new forest rangers who are going to be starting off their careers with DEC's Division of Forest Protection, and they'll be stationed across the state. So it's pretty great.
It is. It was an honor to be able to attend their graduation, speak to them about the important work that they have in front of them, and just welcome new Team DEC members to Team DEC.
Always.
We have so many more coming on board. It's an amazing opportunity. So definitely keep coming back to dec.ny.gov. Take a look at all the open job opportunities that we have here, and you could become the next forest ranger, environmental conservation police officer, or field technician for any of our other DEC divisions and programs that we have.
So many opportunities.
And you know what a cool opportunity is, Erica?
What's that?
To read more about DEC.
Yeah, so tis the season, and this is a pitch for New York's Conservationist magazine. DEC has been publishing The Conservationist for 78 years. It's pretty fantastic. It's available bi-monthly, both in print and digitally. It's got articles and reports on the work that DEC does, the work of our partners. It also features some of the best nature photography in the country. And here's the other thing. It's affordable. So usually a subscription to The Conservationist is a very reasonable $12. But starting Black Friday through Christmas Eve, you can get 6 issues of The Conservationist magazine for just $6. Let me tell you, it is an excellent stocking stuffer.
By far. So yeah, Erica, you talked about the photographs. They're amazing. It is.
Oh, and the calendar.
And the calendar too. But also there's the Conservationist for Kids edition as well, where
so cool.
Targeting 4th graders, really helping to reach their STEM curriculum, giving them cool projects to do around their house and getting involved in nature. It's a really great resource that we have at the department. And I also like it too because I get to pen a letter every edition too, and people get to hear more about me. And
it's got the special Sean Mahar.
It does, and I grew up actually reading The Conservationist myself, and that's what got me interested in coming to Team DEC, and well, it's an honor to be here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Erica, I think that brings us to the end of our show today. Thanks again to Erin and Adam for being on and talking to us about the incident management team, and well, keep writing us at contact@dec.ny.gov. Let us know more of what you want to hear on this show, but most importantly, Erica, what should people do?
Get outside.
DEC Does What is a production of DEC's Division of Communication, Education, and Engagement.
Our theme music is an original composition by Mike Menza, Environmental Program Specialist with DEC's Division of Fish and Wildlife. Like what you heard on this episode? Please leave a review and share this episode with others. Want to learn more about DEC's wide-ranging efforts to protect New Yorkers and the environment? Visit dec.ny.gov or connect with us on social media. You can find us using @NYSDEC. For more information on DEC Does What, visit dec.ny.gov/podcast.